Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whenever you're listening. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, just like the Founding Fathers, welcoming you to episode 289 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. I've titled this one The Death of Truth. I'm going to talk a little bit about all the lying that's going on in the media and politics today. It would be so nice to have people talk the straight truth for a change. But no, that's not likely to happen. But all I can do is help highlight these egregious occurrences and let you, the voters, make your own minds up what you do about it. I know what I'm going to do with my vote. So, tonight's show, 289, as I said. Boy, getting close to the magic 300. I never thought I'd get this far along. But anyway, tonight's show coming to you from New England. Yes, I am back in Connecticut, and we'll be on and off for the next couple of months, on and off coming up here. The only thing I hope is that the liberalism does not rub off on me. But then again, I've also spent time in Chicago, and I seem to have remained reasonably conservative stroke libertarian and not turned regressive. So I think there's hope for me yet. What happened today? Today in the Senate, the Democrats in the Senate blocked Kate's Law and the defunding of sanctuary cities. Kate's Law is the law that some people like Dingy Harry have called Trump's law, although O'Reilly's law would be better. It was actually championed by Bill O'Reilly. It was the law that O'Reilly tried to get because of the murder of Kate Steinle in San Francisco, that basically any illegal immigrant that was deported because of a violent crime that came back across the border and was caught would face an automatic 5 years in jail. Dingy Harry, talking about it, said we don't want to pass a law that stigmatizes people of a different color. Excuse me, violent criminals? So, in other words, the left wants dangerous criminals excuse me, to remain at large in these law-breaking cities. Does putting the American public in danger qualify as treason? I'm not sure. I think an argument could be made. Could we then file treason against these folks? I doubt that would ever happen. And other than the fact that they say it stigmatizes certain people, what other arguments, what real arguments do they make for not supporting these laws? None. So our friend Dingy Harry has a lot to answer for, but he's retiring, thank goodness. Getting rid of him. Yay. Next topic, folks. I'm going to move on quickly here tonight. Got a number of different topics before we get to the death of truth. Sort of connected to that is the way that our friends on the left fawn and do everything they can to support Muslims and the importation of Muslims, right? So-called refugees, but we don't really know whether they're refugees or whether they're ISIS or Al-Qaeda people coming in from Syria. A video has surfaced that really should make us worry even more about the ongoing refugee crisis in the Middle East. Right now, it's affecting Europe primarily, with thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of Muslims flooding Europe and wanting to get welfare, housing, etc. there. How Europe's going to pay for this, I don't know. The unusual thing about this stream of people is that so many of them are young, able-bodied men. And as I've said before on the show, and many other commentators have said, if you're a real man and you're worried about your family's safety, you either stay to defend that safety or you take your family with you. So how come 90% of these people are young, able-bodied males? They should be out there fighting against ISIS, fighting against Al-Qaeda. But why aren't they? Well, maybe something that a Muslim cleric explaining on a video, and he wasn't explaining on the video, he was actually explaining it to a crowd, and somebody happened to be taking a video. So here's the translation of what he said. The infidels want us to be tormented. They want us to be humiliated. The Quran says the Jews and the Christians will never be pleased with you, but we will never follow their religion. This dark night will be over, and soon we will trample them underfoot, Allah willing. Germany is not a compassionate country that wishes to absorb refugees from Syria, Iraq, and the Palestinian refugees in the Levant and elsewhere. Europe has become old and decrepit and needs human reinforcement. No force is more powerful than the human force of us Muslims. Oh, Muslims, the Germans say in their economic reports, that they need 50,000 young workers. Well, now they have 20,000. They want another 30,000 and more to work in their factories. They are not motivated by compassion for the Levant, its people and its refugees. Throughout Europe, all hearts are infused with hatred toward Muslims. They wish that we were dead, but they have lost their fertility, so they look for fertility in our midst. We will give them fertility. We will breed children with them, because we shall conquer their countries, whether you like it or not, O Germans or Americans or French or Italians, and all those like you. Take the refugees. We shall soon collect them in the name of the coming caliphate. We will say to you, these are our sons. Send them, or we will send our armies to you. So, folks, if that doesn't tell you one of the reasons why this refugee stream is happening, all I can say is, wake up, America. The age of conquest is upon us, and it's not us doing the conquering. Frightening, folks. Absolutely frightening. So, let's see now. Another quick topic. And this is about lying. And this is about Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, the chair of the Democratic National Committee. She claims that she had been consulting with other committee officials before deciding to limit the number of primary debates. Remember, we have about 11 Republican debates, still less than the number of candidates, but okay, and a lot less debates. They only have 6 on the Democratic side, and a lot less than actually occurred in the last go-rounds. So, why has it been reduced so much? Well, because Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz says so. DNC Vice Chair Tulsi Gabbard, I think she's from Hawaii, has been saying for the last several days, and contradicting Schultz's long-standing claim, that she, Schultz, had discussed this with the other chairs. On top of that, because Gabbard has been publicly protesting the fact that these debates have been limited, she was disinvited to the first Republican debate. Now, she's a vice chair of the National Committee, the Democrat National Committee. Why would she be disinvited? They talk about the chaos in the GOP because of the election for the Speaker. It's just an election, folks. People disagree. People have discussions about that all the time. But here, the DNC chair is lying, and here she is being, I think, very bad to one of their own. So they're just pretty much as bad as the GOP, if not worse. But that's, folks, that is regressives for you. It's a little quiet in the chat room today. Missing Paul and Rex, but I don't know, is there football or something going on? Or maybe just unable to make it. But if you're listening to the show live, click on the little speech balloon in your Spreaker box there and join me in the chat room. You can put your questions, comments there, and I'll try and answer them live on the show. For those of you that are listening to one of the recordings, be it the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us or via Red State Talk Radio or via the 405 Media or the 405 Radio, that Left Coast network. If you're listening to any of those, obviously you can't participate in the chat room because they're recordings after the fact, but do send me an email at stefan@patrickcomelately.us. You can give me feedback, you can give me comments about the show, you can ask questions. I will do my best to answer you. I love to hear from my listeners. It's nice to know that people are out there listening, and listening live especially, but even if you can't listen live, listen to the recordings, listen to the rebroadcast. I appreciate it. And hopefully what I'm doing is bringing the right messages to you. We're getting closer and closer to the voting in 2016. Hopefully these messages help you take a decision as to how you will vote. Hopefully they will inspire you to vote and vote in the right direction. And hopefully you will also get inspired to tell your friends about the show and get them to listen, and also hear the messages about the lying, the cheating that goes on in Washington, on both sides of the aisle, I'll be very honest, but also the hypocrisy, so often the hypocrisy of the regressives that, as far as I'm concerned, is I think is pretty sick and so obvious, and something they try to cloud, but no, very bad. And talking about lying, do we have time? Well, yes, we have a little bit of time for some more. Talking about lying, so in the most recent, and we were talking about the fact that that Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz was reducing the number of debates on the Democrat side. In the first of the Democrat debates, the AP, which is not really known as a bastion of right-wing news gathering, the AP did a fact check on some of the statements in the debate. And surprise, surprise, for a number of key speakers, specifically Clinton and Sanders, they didn't really look at stuff said by the others, they found a number of Pinocchios, let's put it that way. They found a number of, the way they described it, a number of revisions to history in the Democratic debate. Well, I'm going to just go through some of them because everybody says, well, Hillary did such a great job. Well, she may have done, but she was still lying. And we've got to get this lying out of politics if we can. Whether we will, who knows. However, in the meanwhile, the clock has ticked and it's time for me to take a quick break. So hang on, folks. I will be back.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And folks, we're into the second segment of the show. I want to thank you for joining me, whether it's live, whether it's via the recordings or the rebroadcast at various networks that I mentioned before the break. We were talking, before we were so rudely interrupted by the commercials, we were talking about some fact-checking that the AP, well known as a pretty left-wing news organization, but they did some fact-checking on Hillyer and the old hippie in the Democratic debate and found a number of distortions of the truth, as you might put it in a polite way. So let's start with Clinton, or Hillyer, as I like to call her, on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In the debate, she said, "I did say I hoped it would be the gold standard of trade agreements." Well, the facts, she was not saying, "I hoped it would be the gold standard." She roundly endorsed the deal. In a November 2012 speech in Australia, she declared the Trans-Pacific deal sets the gold standard in trade agreements, something that she echoed in many other locations as well. And then in the debate, she said, when she looked at the final agreement last week, it didn't meet my standards. Backtracking here, methinks old white woman speak with forked tongue. And, of course, one of the reasons for that is because the final agreement had dropped or changed some provisions that liberal activist groups had strongly criticized. So, if it doesn't meet her standards, strange. Anyway, Sanders, the old hippie, what did he say? Almost all the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. Well, he's using outdated data as close as you can get to what he said. In the first 5 years of the economic recovery, 2009 to 2014 to 2014, the richest 1% of Americans captured 58% of income growth, according to a University of California economist whose research Sanders uses. While certainly a large gain, it's a lot less than almost all. Now, in the first 3 years of the recovery, actually, apparently, the richest 1% did capture 91% of the growth in income. But part of that occurred because of impending tax increases on those wealthy Americans that took effect in 2013. So many companies paid out greater bonuses to their highest paid employees in 2012 before the tax rates took effect, and the bonuses fell back in 2013. So what about the poor? In 2014, the bottom 99% finally saw their incomes rise 3.3%, the biggest gain in 15 years. So, you old hippie, doesn't jive. Should we go back to Hillier? What about her email practices? Of course, there was that thing in the debate where Bernie stepped in and to protect her bacon. So you can see he's not serious about becoming president. He had an opportunity to pull the rug from underneath her, and he didn't take it. What a wuss. Anyway, Hillier, on her email practices, I have been as transparent as I know to be. Explain how the server was set up and serviced, whether she informed the State Department about her decision to use the private system, and most important, how it was protected from hacking attempts. We know that a number of people, a hacker in Serbia, Russian-based hackers, and attempted cyber intrusions from China, South Korea, and Germany are all added to the list. Her server was also connected to the internet in ways that made it more vulnerable to hackers. I mentioned earlier that a special software which allows an outside computer to connect to another computer and run it was active, and probably active with the same default password as ever. Those questions have not been answered. So the old hippie said, make every public college and university in this country tuition free. Clinton said, my plan would enable anyone to go to a public college or university tuition free. You would not have to borrow money for tuition. Facts. Well, it might be free for the students, but who is going to pay? Yeah, it's us poor schmeals, the taxpayers. Sanders' plan would cover tuition and fees at public universities. That's $70 billion a year extra expense, with the federal government picking up 2/3 of that tab by taxing trading in the financial markets. So that means now our 401ks are going to go down, so we get hit on two sides. However, students would still be on the hook for room and board that costs an average of almost $10,000. So does that mean they can go there without borrowing money for tuition? Well, if you've got $10,000 in your pocket, of course. The Clinton plan is a little bit easier. It only costs $35 billion over 10 years. This is because it's bound to cost more than the 35 billion projected, was the answer, because she said, my plan would enable anyone to go to a public college or university tuition free. This means that many students would switch to public universities because they could graduate without debt. That would raise the cost for the government, and it would also leave many modestly endowed private institutions in the lurch. But they don't care. Those are private. Those are making money, and then, of course, more money would have to be spent by the government. Where are they going to get it from us? Yeah, from the taxpayers. So neither candidate spoke about the cost of it, just how nice it was, free, right? And also very little was said about the 1.2 trillion in education debt that exists at this time, other than perhaps refinancing at lower rates. So not much help there. The old hippie, what we need to do is raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Well, that's one that I've talked about a lot and said, hey folks, this isn't going to work. $15 an hour would more than double the current federal minimum, and it would be far above the minimum wage previous peak of just under $11 adjusted for inflation in 1968. And a $15 minimum wage is above the median wage in 8 states, which suggests a boost to $15 could cause widespread job losses in those states. So, and this is a left-wing news organization passing this on. Clinton on her Syria strategy as Secretary of State. What I said was we had to put together a coalition, and yes, it included Arabs, people in the region, because what I worry about is what will happen with ISIS gaining more territory, having more reach, and frankly posing a threat to our friends and neighbors in the region and beyond. What a liar Hillier is. Because what are the facts? Clinton was ignoring much of the context of her coalition-building effort in Syria. It was designed to push Bashar Assad from power and did not target the Islamic State or other extremist groups. So let's not even begin about Benghazi. This evening on O'Reilly, he said there are basically 2 or 3 questions that need to be asked when she appears in front of the Benghazi committee. Number 1, did you know about the requests for help from Ambassador Stevens? Apparently he had sent emails requesting extra security. In the past she has said no. So she'll say no again. The next question then is, well, if you were not told about this, that's a dereliction of duty by someone who has been fired because of not passing on this information which you should have seen. She will not be able to answer that either, because nobody was fired. There you are. Those 2 questions would completely scupper her, because obviously the next question from one of the GOP candidates, not on the Benghazi committee, but on the stump, would be, Hillary Clinton, if you don't know what's going on in your own State Department, how can you become President of the United States? Okay, folks, just hang on a moment. Oh, sorry about that. So, I think it's time for a new topic. I'm fed up with the lies. Well, having said that, no, maybe a bit more distortion of the truth. This is the words that Donald Trump has been using, and therefore getting maligned in the mainstream media and attacked by people on both the right and the left. Now, I have to admit, sometimes Donald's phrasing is not perhaps the best. However, most of the time what he says is often true. But of course his blunt phrasing is open to negative interpretation and is normally negatively reported by most of the media, if they're given the opportunity. And boy, they take the opportunity when they get it. Now, the latest one had to do with his statement about George W. Bush. And I want to talk about that, but I do have to take a quick break because, yes, it's that time. We have reached the bottom of the hour, so I will be back immediately after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network.
And thank you for sticking with me there. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're into the second half of the show. And tonight I think we're going to be talking a little bit about George W. Bush, and that sort of brings Texas to mind. So before we start talking about him, here's a little Texas anthem that I've been playing on the show occasionally, and I think it would be very appropriate to have a little bit of entertainment and play that right now. So here it comes.
Deep in the heart of Texas, back in 1835, they drew a line in the sand. The folks at Gonzales had freedom on their minds. It was all because of a cannon that had kept their colony safe. But then General Santa Anna sent some Mexican troops to take the big gun away. You know what those colonists said? Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line.
If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it
one shot at a time. Well, that started a revolution that no one could put down. Like a wildfire for freedom, it's burning even now. You see, even if you got an army, when all is said and done, you just don't mess with Texas, especially when it comes to guns. The Mexicans went home without that cannon.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but we'll warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it
one shot at a time. Now, I know the Constitution, and it gives me certain rights that I will never, ever give up, at least not without a fight. So if anybody's even thinking they're gonna take my guns away, like the good old boys down in Gonzales, I got one thing to say. Come on, make my day.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it
one shot at a time.
Yeah, so special song there for all you supporters of the Second Amendment, and as I said, a little bit of a Texas anthem there, as we're going to be talking about W. And the whole kerfuffle around Donald, right, was because of his blunt reaction to something that Jeb said in the latest Republican debate, you know, the CNN one where they tried to pit one candidate against the other. What a farce that was. But anyway, so Jeb had said that his brother kept the US safe during his administration. Well, in another interview later, Donald said, hey, the towers came down during his reign, should have said his administration. And therefore, his contention was, and it's quite literal, W didn't keep us safe during his administration. You can argue that what he did after 9/11 kept us safe, and probably did. We have to remember, of course, some of it was due to the draconian, unconstitutional Patriot Act, but he kept us safe. But that was after 9/11. But if you look at the overall thing of his administration, no, he didn't keep us safe, because the greatest attack on America of any time occurred during his administration. So then, when being interviewed about that, the Donald doubled down on it and added to that, somebody called it treble down, saying that he thinks 11 might not have happened if he'd been in the White House. Ooh, now that's pushing it. But as I said, Donald is pretty outspoken. And is it so untrue? So let's see what we know about what the Bush administration did in the months before 9/11. This comes from the New York Slimes, right? No love lost between them and the Bushes. So they did some research. This is what they found. They say it was perhaps the most famous presidential briefing in history. On August 6, 2001, W received a classified review of the threats posed by Osama bin Laden and his terrorist network, Al-Qaeda. That morning's presidential daily brief, that's the top secret document prepared by the intelligence agencies, featured the now infamous heading, Bin Laden determined to strike the US. And a few weeks later, on 9/11, Al-Qaeda did. That brief was declassified on April 10th, 2004, in response to pressure from the 9/11 Commission, which was investigating the events that led to 9/11. Now, we hear from the Bushies and the Bushes, but also the Bush supporters. They dismissed the significance of the document, saying that in spite of the jaw-dropping headline, it was only an assessment of Al-Qaeda, of its history, and not a warning of the impending attack. If you look at the brief on August that was published, right, the August 6th one, and read it closely, the argument probably has some validity. It doesn't actually say that an attack will take place. It's more focused on the history. However, somebody at the New York Slimes did his research and discovered that if you connect it to the daily briefs preceding August 6th, these are ones that were not released by the Bush administration, then the story is different. And while these documents are still not public, the reporter that wrote this article said he had read excerpts from many of them, along with other recently declassified records, and he came to a very damning conclusion. The administration's reaction to what Mr. Bush was told in the weeks before that infamous briefing reflected significantly more negligence than has been disclosed. In other words, the August 6th document, for all of the controversy it provoked, is not nearly as shocking as the briefs that came before it. So a lot of chatter going on there about that. CIA was never able to actually say what was going to happen. They knew something was coming up. The CIA passed that on in briefs in June. One reported that on June 29th, they expect that Osama bin Laden expected the planned near-term attacks to have dramatic consequences, including major casualties. A few days later, the brief stated that the operation had been delayed but will occur soon. Sorry about that. So here we are. The August 6th one, they say, it didn't actually say when or what was going to happen. But earlier on in July, they said that something big was going to happen. So the White House just didn't take any action on this. Remember, this is a Republican. This is someone who supposedly was going to keep us safe, but he didn't keep us safe then. It sounds like he could have done something. On July 24th, so that's about 24 days after the earlier things, Mr. Bush was notified that the attack was still being readied, but that it had been postponed, perhaps by a few months. Well, a few months was a good analysis, but still nothing happened. Right? Now, Bush officials have always said that they did not ignore CIA warnings because they hadn't been told when and where the attack would occur. That is perhaps true. But throughout the summer, there were events that might have exposed the plans if the government had been more on alert. Think about a Saudi that was turned back at the airport in Orlando by a suspicious customs agent and sent back on August 4th. Zacharias Moussaoui was arrested on immigration charges after arousing suspicions at a flight school. But the dots were not connected. Washington did not react. Yeah, now, could it have been stopped if the Bush team had upped the urgency? Maybe. We won't really ever know. But also of interest, and that was on TV tonight as well, that they're now publishing excerpts from the book that was written before 9/11 by, yes, the Donald himself, predicting some huge attack to happen in the US. And this was a year and a half before 9/11. In that same book, he named Osama bin Laden, said he's probably one of the bad guys, and also mentioned that our government was doing nothing about it. Well, and let's not forget, of course, really, we can even point the finger a little bit at Bush, but even further back at Slick Willie, because Slick Willie refused to take out bin Laden when he had the chance because he thought he didn't have the law on his side to do that. What was it? Why not? Was he scared? Was he worried about poll numbers? I don't know. Okay, folks, time for our last commercial, and then we will be into the last segment of the show. Be right back.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-551-8302 and get your free bottle. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-551-8302. That's 800-551-8302.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And folks, we're into the last segment of the show here. Time flying again. I want to thank those of you that were able to come and listen live, and Mary joined us in the chat room. One of the regulars that does manage to make it on a regular basis, and appreciate those that listen live. But I also thank all of you that listen to the recordings and the rebroadcasts. I realize that this isn't always the best time to be able to listen, but I do appreciate everybody that listens. Hopefully the messages you hear here are things that you can pass on to your friends, acquaintances, family, and help them when the decisions come for 2016. We've been talking about this spat between Jeb Bush and Donald Trump. I have to be honest, I know many people say, but Donald Trump's not a conservative. He's not, he's not what we want. No, but he's still at 25%, 27%, 30% of the vote. And he's still someone who would shake up Washington. He's still someone who knows how to negotiate things. Is he perfect? No. Are any of the people perfect? He's less imperfect than almost anybody else on the stage, as far as I can see, on the Republican side, and definitely a lot less imperfect than anybody on the Democrat side. I mean, what have we got there? I mean, it's just Hillary and Bernie. Biden may join in. We'll see what happens there. And they all say, in matchups, they're going, Hillary or I don't think Sanders, but Hillary or Biden will definitely beat Trump. Folks, Mary says polls don't a president make, and I agree with you 100% there. But polls are going to indicate what's going to happen in the primaries, and that's one thing that that's going to drive. So if Donald continues to keep high in the polls, then he's going to have one hell of a momentum after the first three primaries. That's going to be make it very interesting. Does it mean that Biden would then beat him in the general election? That one I think is too far out. And Mary, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think I've said it in previous shows. I don't want to annoy you. I think Ben Carson says some good things, but whether he's perfect, like I said, I think he would be a perfect Surgeon General for president. I'm not so sure, but if he were nominated, I would support him, because definitely he is the next closest to being good. I still think we need someone with the strength of Donald. I know Ben Carson is probably strong, but he doesn't show it quite as much. I like the brash, in-your-face strength that we need to get America great again. But either of them, I think, could possibly do a good job. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so one last piece of news here, because we're getting close to the end of the show. One last piece of news. And you may remember a while back I talked about Obama trying to take out Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the polls. And so apparently in another country, he also sent his operatives to take out the leader of another U.S. ally. This time it was Canada, and this time he was successful. Yes, the Canadian Conservative Party Prime Minister Stephen Harper has been unseated. He's a big supporter of Israel. He's a big opponent of Vladimir Putin, and Obama sending Democratic operatives north of the border to help with the election there managed to unseat him and get Trudeau re-elected back as Prime Minister. He's been Prime Minister in the past, and he went back. Why would Obama do that? Well, first of all, I don't think he likes the idea of a conservative in a neighbor, right? Canada's right next to us. It's home of the architects of the Keystone XL pipeline, which he doesn't like, and also someone who's probably today the number one elected defender of Israel, way ahead of anything America does. And in many cases, I think people are perceiving Harper to be stronger than and to represent the Western world far more than Obama does, especially things at G20, etc. Harper was strong against Putin, while Obama just rolled over and played dead. So Harper is now gone. Obama was successful with that. That's really unfortunate. Okay, folks, I see we've reached the end of our time. I want to say TTFN, and hope that you will join me again next week. We'll have more news and views, and hopefully in the near future, Spreaker has a new capability of allowing phone calls again, so I may be able to start having some guests on again, and I hope to get our dear friend Rex on about his new book. So looking forward to that. The music has started. It's TTFN, folks. Thanks a lot for coming. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.